Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is the Sycamore Township Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for Monday, October 19th, 2020, and I'll call it to order. And obviously, if you can all turn off or mute your cell phones, we hopefully won't be involved with any other stray messages or calls tonight. So Secretary Schultz, would you please take a roll call for the members?
Mr. Eichmann?
Who's talking?
Mr. Eichmann?
That's me.
Me?
I'm here.
Mr. Eichmann?
Present.
Mr. Lugers?
Yes, here.
I can't see everybody who's here.
I just go down the list. Don't
Just
worry.
go down the list. If you don't have your list, I'll say it, Steve. I realize you're out of town, Steve. If you don't have your list, I'll call them off.
Mr. Eichmann. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so we'll take the attendance here. Ted Lugers,
Here.
Jeff Heidel,
Here.
Jim Eichmann here, Steve Schultz,
Here.
George Tenek,
Here.
Tracy Hughes.
Here.
Very good. At this point, I'd like to, we don't have to stand, but I'd like to put your hand over your heart and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the issuance of the order,
one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
well, there's somebody trailing a lot here. Who's trailing?
It's probably me. I keep getting a message that says my connection is unstable.
Yep. So
Okay.
it looks like Steve has a lot of lag. Yep, that's fine. So Steve,
Okay.
just follow along with the audio, and if you have a question, you can chime in. There's a chat box actually at the bottom if you want to just kind of alert us, and then we'll give you time to speak. But there's going to be some lag.
Yeah, I realized Steve was traveling, so this is going to make it difficult. But we'll try and work with you, Steve. But one note here, this is due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the order from Governor DeWine and the Director of the Ohio Department of Health, and due to enabling legislation in the House bill, which allowed us to have Ohio governments meet remotely during this time, the Sycamore Township Board of Zoning Appeals will hold this meeting as a public meeting via remote video with all participants joining by video conferencing. We appreciate the public's cooperation as we attempt to conduct the business of the township in these difficult times. And of course, Rob, who's been managing our meeting, will make sure the public and anybody that wants to make a comment will get in at the appropriate time. So everybody just have patience with us and we'll work through it tonight. Okay, so the first order of business is the approval of the past meeting minutes. Any comments or questions?
Yeah.
Okay, if there is none, I'll hear a motion to accept.
I accept.
I'll second.
Okay, and we'll have a vote, and I'll do that in with Steve's difficulty here. Ted Lugers,
Yes.
Jeff Heidel,
Yes.
Jim Eichmann, yes. Steve Schultz, just raise your hand. There you go. And George Tenek
Yes.
and Tracy.
Yes.
Tracy. Okay, very good. Thank you. Next, I would like to make a motion that we approve electronic signatures of the BZA members for any documents that need signatures during tonight's Zoom meeting. So I've made that motion. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay, and once again, in Steve's place, I'll take the roll. Ted Luger,
Yes.
Jeff Heidel,
Yes.
Jim Eichmann, yes. Steve Schultz, raise your hand. There you go. And George Tenek?
Yes.
and Tracy Hughes.
Yes.
Very good. Thanks very much for that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing, and all testimony in cases pending before this board is to be made part of the public record. And all testimony and discussion relative to each variance or conditional use, of which we're going to be hearing both tonight, will be recorded, and it's from this recording that our minutes are taken. We welcome comments and questions at this meeting relating to the facts of the cases being heard. And public participants may be anyone who would like to voice their opinion, and we'll get them in on this Zoom conference when they are here to make a comment. There'll be times when members of the public may direct concerns, questions, or comments to the board, but first they have to be recognized by myself, the chair. Citizens testifying before this board are directed to voluntarily sign in, or in this case, sign in with Rob, our administrator, at the Zoom meeting. And after being sworn in, and we'll do that in a minute, they'll take their place, obviously, to be recognized by the chair and be able to comment at this Zoom meeting. We'll ask you to speak clearly, state your name and address for the record whenever you're called upon, and mention anything you feel is relevant to the specific case being heard. And please note that those testifying will do so one at a time, particularly tonight. It's hard to talk over each other. So the normal process at our BZA meetings is to swear in staff and members of the public that would be providing testimony or presenting evidence in a case. And if we don't have everybody on at the same time as they join us, we'll ask them to also be sworn in. We ask that you limit testimony to only that which is relevant to the case being presented and the standards that need to be met, which I'll introduce to you in a minute. And note that the Board of Zoning Appeals is an evidence-based body, and decisions are based on facts and hardships, and the facts must address the standards. Unfortunately, we're not a committee of compassion, and of course, the burden of proof is on you, the applicant. So as I mentioned, this is a public hearing, and being sworn in prior to giving testimony is required. So if you intend to testify this evening, we'd ask that you raise your right hand kind of in the area of your camera so we can all see you. And I'll ask you, okay, you're all there? So, and I'll ask the staff to do the same. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And your answer is, I do.
I do.
Okay, did I catch everybody?
I do.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so first tonight we'll go into our old business. And this is case SYCB190018. And that's of Five Star Equity Investors, LLC, at various addresses on Kugler Mill Road. This was for a conditional use. And I see once again we have this tabled. Skylar, is that correct still to a future date?
Yes, sir. That is tabled currently. There is some movement on the associated lawsuit and possible consent decree. So that hopefully we'll have a resolution on that here in the next month or so.
Okay, good. We'll obviously keep this on the agenda for the following months, and we'll see what happens when we get to it. So I'm not sure if both cases are here on the video with me right now. I'm trying to catch everybody's. Do we have, I see we have the Nelson and Lauren Lee. Is also Anthony Maley here too? Okay, all right. So at this point, we have this conditional use, but what I'd like to do, if particularly for those who have not, I know this is laborious for some of us who've been here before, but we kind of like to make sure that people understand what we're listening to tonight and how we make our decisions. And in that case, we actually talk about what a variance is and what a conditional use is. And as we might have to delay or reverse the order of these cases tonight until the folks from the variance get in, let me address the conditional use that will be in the case of the Lease. And I guess we'll hear that first if the other one isn't here. So you might ask what a conditional use is. A conditional use are those having some special impact or uniqueness that requires a careful review of the location, the design, the configuration on any given site. And we do have standards that we consider. There are 4 general standards considered by the board, and they're applicable in all conditional use cases. Number 1 is the conditional use compliance with within the spirit and intent of the zoning resolution. And number 2, the determination that the proposed use will not have an adverse effect on adjacent property. And number 3, there is the concern of protection of natural, scenic, and historic features. And number 4 is the consistency with adopted plans. So those are the general standards will kind of guide our decisions tonight. And if there aren't any questions or concerns about that, and I hear none, we'll try to get on with the new business. And let me explain how we go about this. First, we're going to have read to us by, I guess, I don't know, Kevin or Skylar, one of the two will read us the different case, the applicant, location, and request. And then the board will then ask questions of the staff for clarification for our purposes. And then we'll discuss the issue a little bit. And at that point, I will then ask the applicant, who won't be commenting until this point, I'll ask the applicant if they'd like to add anything. And this is when the applicant can tell us anything they want to inform us about as to why their case should be approved. And then I'll ask, after they're completed with that discussion, I'll ask for any attending public that would like to comment. And then after that's done, I'll close the public comment to everybody. And then the board will discuss the issues before them openly and publicly. And at some point in time, I will entertain a motion for approval or denial of the, in this case, conditional use. So if that helps with the Lease with the understanding of how we're going to go about it, we'll get started with our new business. Okay? All right. So this first case is for SYCB 200015. I'm sorry. I just said that I was going to do it the other way. 0016. The Nelson and Lauren Lee. They're at 6380 Euclid. And this is, as I mentioned, for conditional use. So, Kevin, are you going to do this?
Yes, I'm going to do it. Just give me a second here real quick. Skylar's going to come back and take a look at something for me here real quick.
All right. When you're ready.
Yeah, and I'll get going just quickly here.
Okay.
So what do I do?
So it looks like you're already doing the screen share. Can everybody see the PowerPoint?
Yes, sir.
All right, you're good to go.
So how do I move it though? So we're starting with 16, correct?
Yep.
We're starting with 16, correct?
Okay.
But that's a conditional
There it is.
use.
Okay.
Lauren Lee.
Sorry about that. Okay. Case SYCB 200016. Address is 6380 Euclid Road. Request is a variance conditional use. Applicant is Nelson and Lauren Lee. Parcel PIN is 600-0211-0152-00. The current zoning of this is B, single family residential. Zoning compliance issue is conditional use, short-term rental property. Request is the applicant requests conditional use approval for the property zoned for single family residential for a short-term rental. This here is just basically always like to show the parcel where the property sits at 6380 Euclid Road, and move on to it. It gives you a little bit better of a bird's eye view, or if you want to call it, of the property itself as well. Okay, a frontal view from the street of Euclid. Here's the home. And then give you a shot of the back of the home. Okay, respective owners of are realtors and intend to provide short-term furnished accommodations to individuals who have a short gap between when their house and their next house closing. Terms could be as short as a few days to a few months. The owners may be listing on Airbnb or similar website for marketing. Okay, I'll open it up now to any kind of questions you have, or also, as you can see, the owners of the home are here to answer questions.
Okay, Kevin, I might just ask quickly, why are we needed to approve rentals of property?
Skylar, can you weigh in on that?
Yeah, so that's fine. So very quickly, B&Bs are considered a conditional use in our residential zoning districts. You can't do them by right. You can't do them as a home occupation. So they fit the criteria that we discussed as a conditional use. Now, this is not what I would consider a traditional bed and breakfast. The applicants can get into this a little bit, but I believe they've purchased this property to kind of do some flexible rentals to assist with their realty business. But they're not always going to have a client in there, so it's going to be advertised on Airbnb as well. The only provisions in the zoning resolution that allow for any type of rental activity that is less than 2 weeks is the bed and breakfast. So while this property may not be considered like your traditional kind of vacation bed and breakfast, granting the conditional use for a bed and breakfast will allow them to do the short-term rental type agreements that would be incidental to to their realty business. Does that answer the question?
That helps. It raised a few other questions, but yes, that helps me.
Sure.
Anybody have any questions for Skylar?
Yes, I do.
Mhm.
This is, what are the trailers will have no effect on the adjacent properties?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I'm reading on 17-7-12 says proposed trailers will not have any effect on the adjacent properties.
Hang on one second.
Trailers.
It's a different application.
Yeah, there's no trailers proposed, I don't believe.
I know there are. Why is it on the staff report?
Hang on one second. Hang on, I'm trying to navigate right now to the staff report so we can take a look at that.
Don't have that either.
Kevin, did you get these? Did you get this section from the school?
Yeah,
Conditional use.
I'm looking at it too, and that totally should not have been on there.
Yeah. So let me.
That was
Let me
totally
bring it up.
our fault there on that one.
All right. Let me bring up a little cheat sheet that I put together regarding bed and breakfast here. We can talk about that. Hang on one second. Give me 1 second here. All right, Kevin, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Oh, you've already taken yours off. Okay, let me. All right, so this was actually. Can you guys see the table right here?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this was a quick little reference guide that I put together for the applicant and then for discussion internally about bed and breakfasts and why they fit into this category of conditional use. So you can see right there highlighted bed and breakfast, conditional use within our residential districts. As we scroll down, talk how it's prohibited from home occupation, like I already said. Okay, so if we're looking at 1712, this is what these are the sections that should have been incorporated in the staff report. I apologize. 1712 conditional uses. So we're looking at the specific criteria, which is you can kind of see over here. We're looking at numbers 6, 8, 13, 16B, 19, and 24. So I just kind of copy and pasted these into a quick little document. So number 6, parking shall not be permitted in the area defined as the front yard setback of the existing zone district. So that just means we're not going to put a parking lot in the front yard. Driveway is the exception there for residential areas. As far as 8, let's see. Vehicular use area shall be located and designed so as to minimize the impact on the neighborhood. Again, with a traditional bed and breakfast, you're talking about living in the bed and breakfast and having rentable spaces that may serve the
Look for a real
clients or visitors, or having, whether you live in it or not is here or there, but having those additional parking areas, to facilitate the Airbnb. So no exterior alterations. This is 13. No exterior alterations of an existing structure shall be made that depart from the residential character of the building. This isn't happening. The property is staying consistent with what it is now. Signage, one sign permitted at a maximum of 12 square feet and not internally illuminated. The applicants haven't submitted or made it notified us of their intention for a sign. And then all exterior lighting shall be directed away from adjacent residential properties. Again, there's no special parking lights or anything like that the applicants have proposed. And then the other condition that's relevant to, again, traditional B&Bs would be meals shall be served only to guests or residents of the facility and not to the general public. So basically that condition is in our code so that, this isn't like a, backdoor language to establish a cafe or restaurant, versus, meals incidental to guests. So that's that is the conditional use language that's pertinent to the B&Bs.
So Skylar, this is Jim. I have a question then in regards to that last section 24. Does and I know the intent based on what was suggested early about good place to have a place to live while you're waiting for your other real estate to close. But is there a way that 24, knowing the good intentions, but the way things can happen sometimes, that all of a sudden this could become a party venue for a day?
Well, if it was a party venue for a day, then there would be noise nuisance ordinances that would be in place,
Right.
disturbing the peace. So, if the applicant, rented out for a wedding or something, the applicant would have to get tent permits, whole 9 yards, just like just like you would for, for a public function at your residence. So.
Yeah, I think my only concern would be how we can, based on the way we would approve a bed and breakfast, how it could be avoided, how we could avoid having it be a neighborhood nuisance for something that's generally a single family home. It would be a couple or a family waiting to get into their new home is a perfectly logical process. But I was concerned that not knowing that if that could happen under our B&B opportunity.
So I would, if that's a concern, I'd recommend having that conversation with the applicant and, possibly setting that as a condition of approval, something to the effect of, rentals shall be limited to, residential uses for people staying in the home only, and members of the public, shall not, that are not guests of the home or short-term tenants of the home shall not be able to use the premises. We can fix that wording, but something to that effect.
Okay. Any other questions from the other members for the staff?
I have a question. What is the shortest period of time without this conditional use that they can rent it?
15 days. It says no less than rentals no less than 2 weeks.
I've seen other Airbnbs that have a minimum, so that kind of reduces that one night party thing.
Right.
I do have Ted, are you finished with your questions?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I do have some other questions. Curiously, because I do Airbnb when we travel sometimes, and I looked to see if there are any in our area, neighborhood, and saw that. And so this has been up on the site for a while. Let me ask the Nelsons, if I may, do you have renters in there currently, or have you had recently? And are they usually the 2 week or 4 week duration?
Let's do this. Excuse me, Mr. Lee. Or Nelson, is it? I'm sorry.
No,
No, Mr. Lee. Yeah,
Mr. Lee, I'm sorry.
Yeah, George, if we could just wait and ask that question after we give them an opportunity to speak their piece, so they may be able to address your question anyway. And then if not, please ask your question at that point, because we'll open it up to them, and we haven't really introduced them yet. I just want to make sure if we have any other staff questions, we do that before we ask the applicant to speak.
Now, I'll apologize to the Lees. I'm new at this too. But then I do have a staff question. Do we have other properties in our township?
Yeah, I was curious too.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Do we have any other B&Bs in our?
Yeah.
We do not.
Okay. Then I have one other question. How did this come up on the radar screen? I think I think the Lees have owned this for more than a few months, have they?
Actually, they just purchased the property. I believe they closed on it during the application process.
Okay.
But this actually came up on the radar because the Lees contacted us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
good.
Honestly, this was the applicant trying to be proactive and do things above board.
I have a question. I don't know if this is the time. Have the neighbors, has anybody sent comments in to our staff when they were notified about this hearing?
Kevin can speak on this too, and even Jessica can chime in. I have not received any calls or concerns or emails regarding this, nor did anyone request to join the meeting tonight. And as is typical of any of our cases, the surrounding area was notified. I believe anyone within 200 feet of the property would have been notified, and there should be a sign on in the front yard right now that
There wasn't.
the meeting is.
I didn't see one. I drove by it and I didn't see a sign.
Really? Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, the sign did not get put up. I apologize for that. But Jessica just told me we had one person calling in about it, requested to be involved tonight. And what else was it, Jess?
We had one person call about it, and they were inquiring about it, and then they read the letter of intent. So, but that's it.
Okay.
So no negative comments, Jessica?
I don't believe it at the beginning before they read the letter of intent. I think they had, some reservations about it, but after they read like the letter of intent, what they were wanting to do, they seemed like they were okay with it.
All right, so I would just consider that in inquiry for, information. They didn't leave an official comment with us.
Okay. And then, of course, if we have anybody on the Zoom call tonight from the public, they'll be given a chance to speak after we hear from the applicant.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, if not, now we'd like to ask the applicant if they would like to add anything. And I know we've addressed you by name already, but please introduce yourself and your address and anything you'd like to add to the commentary so we can understand your reason for your application.
Okay, thank you. My name is Nelson Lee and my wife Lauren. We are both realtors and service the Cincinnati MLS. So we do business in Sycamore Township and the surrounding areas.
Could we have your permanent address as well?
You can. Our permanent address is 8311 Colonial Mill Manor, Westchester, Ohio 45069.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And so we have these situations where our clients, we have clients who may be building. A lot of times this happens when a client wants to build, and their house isn't done yet, but they've sold their house, and so they need some temporary housing. And so what we're trying to do is really find a solution for that, for that client of ours. And this property came up. It kind of fit exactly what we were looking for. And so we decided to go ahead and move forward with that game plan. I want to address the issue of the party house, because this is a common problem, I guess, with Airbnbs. And you can actually specify in the listing no parties. So we definitely would include that in a listing for an Airbnb. I don't think our primary goal is to Airbnb the house, though. Our primary goal is really to keep it rented with our clients. Some of them might be multi-month rentals. So that would be our primary objective, really, is to just provide transitionary housing for clients. The other was regarding the minimum stay. So we will have a minimum stay defined in Airbnb. We just don't know what that's going to be at this point. And the reason we don't know is because we just don't know what the demand is going to be. We don't know a lot of things. It's not in our interests to rent to an Airbnb client for one day. And the reason is because of the cleaning fees. It's fairly costly to change over between, rentals. So we don't know what that will be or what that will look like, but it will be probably anywhere from 3 to 6 days as far as when it's listed on Airbnb. So I hope that answers the question, or that particular question. Did you have anything?
Just that we want to make sure as agents that we're following zoning guidelines and, we honor the community that we're purchasing properties in. So that's why I reached out to the township just wanted to make sure what the rules were, just wanted to make sure we were doing everything correctly. And of course, we were surprised when it came upon the bed and breakfast, in that area, because, I'm not going to be serving food every morning. So they can do that on their own. But, it's really just for families to come in, maybe spend the weekend if they do have a holiday and people want to rent a place to stay, or clients who need transitional housing. Honestly, that's just the goal. And really, we're small business owners in a way. So we're just going to see what happens.
Yeah.
So we might have a few additional questions for you. Are you finished with what you want us to know about it?
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Are there any questions for the lease? I have one. Do you have other properties in other parts of Cincinnati?
Oh, this is our first temporary rental.
Okay, and so on the surface, it sounds like you have no problem with us limiting, if the place is empty and I want to have a Super Bowl party and I heard about your place and I go, I want to rent it for a day, or I have a minimum of 6 days, you could make the rate anything you want to make it. So you could make it possible for me, but limiting that kind of opportunity from doing that doesn't sound like you'd have any problem with that.
No, we have no problems limiting, restricting no parties or stating no parties allowed.
Great. Okay. Well, that was the only concern I.
I mean, as in the Airbnb criteria, we can state, what our goals are. And I mean, honestly, this is our property. So we don't want anything to be damaged. We don't want crazy people. We don't, this isn't what we want as homeowners, to have people having parties in the place. It's not the goal, but, we will outline that in our, requirements on the list.
But on Airbnb, so you did buy it for your clients or for people in transition, but in the meantime, if you don't have a client in there, you will put on an Airbnb. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, and that is exactly why we decided to pay for this conditional use application, because we really can't see the future and we want to be clear about that. If indeed we have someone that wants to stay a weekend, that is under the 14 days. And given that it may happen, it may not happen, I have no idea, but I'm going to follow the letter of the law.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just because Airbnb, my friend of mine has an Airbnb and they put in there no parties. That doesn't mean people don't have parties, and it happens a lot. And he actually lives. It's a 2-family, so he knows when there's a party. You live far away. So, I mean, there's got to be some controls there, I think. And I will tell you that I think people in my neighborhood wanted to do some Airbnbs because we live close to the mall and people could come in, and the neighbors were not happy about it. And they actually shut it down. This was several years ago. So just know that I think it could be sensitive to some residents.
Well, I want to just address that in that, as an agent, I'm really close by. I'm the number 2 agent for my brokerage in the state. And so I am in the area. It's not going to be an issue to be checking in on things. And I don't think it's not like I'm renting this out in California or something. So I'm going to believe that we will have some monitoring of it in a way, because, it's 20 minutes. We're really close to the border of West. So one reason to purchase it, because it was a great location for us too to manage. But I agree, we cannot control every human on the planet, and we will right in there. But in an ideal world, we will address that, and maybe it'll be longer rental periods. If it becomes an issue, we'll probably adjust our strategy to deal with that.
Yeah, and we may, if it doesn't work out, we'll just rent it long term. We don't have to do Airbnbs ultimately. So
right. Okay.
This Airbnb thing, temporary rental is a new business for us. So, but I know there's demand. There's a huge amount of demand for it. I'm talking about the temporary rentals to people in transition.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, there are.
yeah, we're looking forward to that.
Will you be advertising this service to large corporations?
I don't think right now we will have that much availability. I actually think that, you know, in my network of agents, I've already talked to different agents since we purchased it. You know, do you have clients who are, you know, going to need temporary housing, and it's just been positively received. So I actually just think within my own circles, there'll be a lot of families in transition and need the service. So I don't know how far out I'm going to have to go in my marketing to actually, you know, have it booked.
We haven't discussed reaching out to corporations.
Not at this time.
Yeah.
How about, is it furnished?
Yes.
Okay, so there won't be moving trucks coming in and out with people
No.
moving in and out every 3 or 4 months.
No. No, it's designed to be furnished completely. So even if somebody wants a 2-month rental, they will be using our furniture. They won't be moving their furniture in. In cases like that, actually people like it furnished because they put all their personal belongings in like a storage unit and
Right.
they just live temporarily.
Well, I know, you know, moving vans coming in and out every few months would be a neighborhood concern. So I think that's a smart way to approach it, and makes probably will make our residents nearby happier with your plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And remember, our location is right there on the corner of Kenwood and Euclid. So like there's just one house to the corner and then it's basically an intersection.
Right.
So actually kind of a good location where it's not like on a slow moving street and there's houses all around you.
Good. George, I know you had a question earlier. Do you still have your same question?
I think they've addressed it. I appreciate that.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Anyone else who have questions for the Lees? Okay, if there are no further questions for the Lees, and you've given us as much information as you can, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'll then ask if there is any attending public, Rob, that we have on the line that wants to make a comment on this proposal. Okay. Seeing how we do not, I'll now close the public comment, and the board can now discuss the issues based on our standards. Any questions or concerns or thoughts from the board members?
Yeah, I have some concerns. First off, Sycamore Township is not very good at enforcing anything like this. And my concern is the place can become a nuisance with a Airbnb. They have right now, they can do as short as the 2-week rental without anything. So I'm inclined to deny this one.
Well, may I speak?
Sure, George, go ahead.
I know that there is a need for this. I know people have rented short time at Indian Creek Apartments, which is near the mall. And there are a lot of people that are in transition. We had family move out of our neighborhood that is in a transition mode similar to this. So I understand the need. I also understand what Ted's saying. We have to be careful of it becoming a nuisance, but we have a lot of properties that are nuisances. Yeah, so it's not just exclusive to a short-term rental.
They can.
If this isn't granted, they can still rent it for 2 weeks for transitional. There's no issue with that. Right?
That's correct. As far as I understand, the minimum is 15 days.
Right. So I'm suspecting that if this is granted, I know people with rental property and Holiday Acres who will be in front of this board and say, you granted theirs, why aren't you granting mine? I think it sets a precedent.
Would the Holiday Acre people want a minimum 2 weeks?
They want to do Airbnbs. There's somebody on, and she lives close by, and she wanted to do an Airbnb, and the neighbors complained, and she did not apply for the conditional use. She just rented it long term. But I do know if you
This,
could,
this property was on Airbnb, and I can't remember when I looked. It was probably a few months ago. So it was Airbnb prior to the Lease buying the property, I think.
well,
So
they
what
were-
you're both kind of saying is that we could have, they could still be a B&B, but rented for 2-week minimums and not be required to have conditional use.
correct.
Is that correct, Kevin and Skylar? They could still
Um,
call it a B&B but have 2-week minimum.
Well, you don't.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily. Sure, you could do that. We just prohibit any type of rental that's less than 2 weeks. So
Right. Okay.
a 14-day minimum rental is permitted by right.
But what Tracy, and what you're saying then is that people in your neighborhood would want to go and advertise on Airbnb. Almost what we're saying is this is, if it weren't requested to be advertised on Airbnb and with a 2-week minimum, they wouldn't even have to be before us.
Correct.
Tyler, am I correct on that?
You're correct.
So
The whole purpose is the less than 2 week.
it's almost the platform they advertise on is the reason they're in front of us.
Well, and based on what I'm hearing too from the Lees, the intent is to have this. If you're a transitional person who wants to move in somewhere, you stay in a hotel if you need a night or two. You stay in you rent a home for at least a month. Most homes are rented for a month. It would be, and I know there are homes that are rented along Orchard Lane and other places for months at a time when people are building a home or something. So, the 2-week period that's where I'm having trouble. I'm trying to decide, there needs to be a limitation in my mind to this, from everything from a party week or a party night or a party weekend, or even, some other deal that might last a week with, I'm having 15 people in for a wedding and they need a house to stay in and we're just going to sleep wherever we can. But whatever it is, the bottom line is, how do we limit what they're going to do to coincide with their intent, which is very honorable, but why it needs to be less than 2 weeks, I'm having trouble with too, because of that normal transition period for somebody to literally move in a place while my home or my other home is going to be closed in a week or two or a month or two or whatever. So that's the trouble I'm having too, because I think there needs to be a limitation, or else we do just what Tracy did. Everybody wants to do it then, and we'd have a hard time restricting others. So yeah, I'm having the same difficulty. That's why what Ted said kind of makes sense, because they can have their 2 weeks and do their job and do what their general intent is without providing them short-term rentals beyond under 2 weeks.
Right.
Any other thoughts from the other members, Steve or Jeff?
No, I'm with you. I feel like it ought to be a minimum 2 weeks.
Any other commentary?
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. And the reason I say that is I have used Airbnb, and but then I'm not opening up to a party full of people, and
Well, I think their intention is to have people in their unit,
right,
couple months or more than 2 weeks.
Right.
That their point is, if it's empty, I want to be able to rent it for a day or two to somebody that wants to hang out in Cincinnati or Madera or for whatever reason. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a family of 4 coming in, sometimes they're great, especially if you have adult kids. They have a house to lounge in instead of hotel rooms. But to Tracy's point, I can see where it could open up. It sounds like it could be, a big problem in other neighborhoods, and I never thought about that. That's why I wondered if this is the only one that we have in the township. And with that in mind, do we go to Airbnb and look up Sycamore Township and see if there are other homes?
It's been a practice in the past. The current policy is to do enforcement based on on a complaint basis. So if we have a problem property, it can certainly be researched. But since I've been here, we haven't had any complaints about transient tenants or issues with short term people coming in and out, I guess. At least not in this type of situation.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as I said, it's a tough one. I mean, I know people in Augusta, Georgia, when the Masters were there, rent their homes out for 2 weeks, and they use that money to go on a very expensive vacation with that 2 week period.
Right.
I don't think Sycamore Township's ever going to have that luxury, but this is a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be for me.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, they haven't specified a rate. I mean, they could rent the place out for 2 weeks and charge the equivalent of one night, and somebody could stay there one night, even though they claimed they paid for and signed for a 2 week rental. They could do anything they wanted and violate the policy very easily. Because I can see where you can set the rate anywhere, and you can let them stay one day and still say you're charging them for 2 weeks or a month. I don't know how we administer. That's like back to Ted's point. I don't know how we administer, and no intent, I know from the lease perspective, to do anything to connive any situation here. But I'm just saying you could do anything you want in any kind of rental situation, and it would violate the concept that we're dealing with here. So I don't know how we would regulate it. That's my problem right now.
So that gets back to like
from a regulation standpoint. Sorry.
Yes, Skylar, if you can comment, I appreciate it.
Well, so zoning is one police power. It's one tool that the township has. It's not the silver bullet to regulate everything that happens throughout the township. If there's if there's a rowdy party, I'm not necessarily even talking about this property, but if there's a rowdy party somewhere in the township, that's disturbing the peace, that's causing a ruckus, if you will, at 3 a.m, that's why we have law enforcement. If there's too many cars on the street and it's blocking fire access, again, we have the sheriff's department. There's other regulations in place that we're able to address those nuisance issues in neighborhoods. So enforcement and community enforcement is not a one tool for everything kind of situation. It's why Kevin attends the at least when we were having them pre-COVID, the neighborhood watches in certain neighborhoods in coordination with our sheriff's department. So I wouldn't necessarily expect if somebody's having a party for zoning to take care of that. Zoning is very much a long-term and lengthy procedural issue. It's for general property maintenance. It's for ongoing uses. If somebody has their garbage cans out for 3 days in a row after they're picked up, we can send a zoning violation letter and that gets taken care of. A party's done and over with. That's if you're worried about a party, call law enforcement, call the sheriff's department. That's not something that zoning is going to be able to handle. If it's a continual issue on that property, somebody's just constantly having they're renting it out and causing that. That's something that, again, that's a long-term use over and over. We could in concert with sheriff's department work on some kind of enforcement. But like I said, that's zoning isn't the first thing that comes to mind when I think about that.
Right. Well, I'm sorry. Are you finished?
No, that's fine.
Okay. I mean, we have parties in our neighborhoods too that can get out of hand, in resident-owned residences. And I appreciate what Tracy is saying. But then I think that if we do it case by case, I'm kind of for this in that I don't see a whole lot of difference between, the minimum 2-week stay for short-term rental in the neighborhood in this township. It's just the platform that's being used. And there, is an advantage to a weekend house for families. I've used them. So I think that's where, I'm thinking that. But it could open up a can of worms, but we don't have any neighbors that are come forward about this. If that person in Holiday Acres wants to do this, it sounds like we'll have a lot of neighbors, and then that will be a whole different discussion, and we'll listen to their case and then go with that. But my inclination is to go ahead with that. I know Ted said otherwise, but that's my inclination.
Any other comments before we hear a motion? We kind of heard a motion. Was that a motion, Ted, or was that your feelings?
Yep, that was my feelings. I figured that we'd wait and see what other people had to say, and then let me know when you're ready for a motion. We'll see where we are.
Okay, well, if there are any other comments, speak up now. If not, I'm willing to entertain a motion from anyone on the board.
I motion on case SYCB 200016 that we deny the application.
Is there a second?
Am I allowed to, since I'm the alternate?
No, just the voting members tonight. Okay, I don't hear a second. That must mean there's a feeling for another motion.
Jeff,
I think Steve may have tried to second that.
Your
I'm sorry?
mic is muted.
Jeff, you're muted.
Jeff.
I think Jeff's trying to say something.
Yeah. Oh,
Unmute yourself, Jeff.
Rob, can you assist with that?
You got me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'd second it.
What are you seconding, Jeff? You're seconding the motion to deny?
Correct.
Okay. All right, any other further discussion? If not, we'll take a vote on that. And do you want me to handle that, Steve, or can you do it?
As long as you can hear me, I can do it.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Lugers,
Yes.
Mr. Tinike,
No.
Mr. Heidel,
Yes.
Mr. Eichmann,
No?
Mr. Schultz, no.
Okay. I'll be willing to entertain another motion as that failed 3-2. The denial failed 3-2. So do I hear another motion?
I suppose I'll make the motion since I was the more vocal of the group, but I will motion that we proceed with the, I'm new at this, Ted, so you'll have to help me a little. I motion we proceed with the request.
Are there any conditions to the to your motion?
That's where I'm struggling. I'm struggling on the 2-week minimum condition, but I think that might be onerous.
So if I may comment before you finish your motion, I guess we're still in discussion here. If the condition is to set a 2-week minimum, then the approval is kind of moot because they can do that by right.
Correct.
So if there's a condition of some number less than 2 weeks, that needs to be discussed and determined. Or if there's use conditions like no parties, or something to that effect, you can suggest those as well as part of your motion. but we'll need those clear conditions if you choose to make any conditions as part of your motion.
Yeah, because I think the comment was that they want to use it for a B&B. So my thought of conditioning it upon someone who's waiting a closing or a building of a facility, that doesn't allow them to use it as a B&B.
Yeah, it's correct. Because the short term, like I said, our family has used these.
Right.
There's my wife and I and 2 adult sons, and we need the space. They're big kids. And so I'm struggling with the motion. I think if we said a minimum 3 days, then as Jim said, well, you can always adjust the price so much that they're going to stay there for 2 and we're going to say they paid for 3. Or if we say a medium family, that could be tough too. So I am struggling with that. I would like to say, a minimum of 3 days. And maybe we'll let them, as Jim said, you might adjust the price so that they can afford a 3-day stay for a 2-day price. But I don't know. I think a minimum of a weekend, a 3-day might work. So I suppose my motion would be to proceed as planned with a condition that there is a minimum 3-day rental. And we'll go with that.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion on that? Any thought about adding to that, George, in regards to, I know it's going to be tough to administer how we keep from having parties, but it's for...
So I'll weigh in a little bit. So any type of zoning enforcement on parties is going to be after the fact. The policing on that would be, let's say, and this is anywhere. Let's say if there was a condition of no parties. I'm sorry, I'm trying to work through this. If there was
we're kind of working through it with. Somebody could pull a bus up there, but you could limit it based on number of vehicles or something. But I'm not sure if that's a possibility.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, if there was a party there was an issue. The sheriff's department came and there was a report. There could be a one instance violation. With possible fine. I'll tell you right now, that would only be enforced if this was a continuing issue. We'd send a letter, it would be over with, and it would basically be a warning. Unless this became a huge nuisance in a neighborhood, it would never go to court. But if that was a condition on here, that's something that could happen. Again, if this became a problem property.
I suppose we could put a condition on there that if the property becomes a nuisance, that we can readdress this at some time. Is that?
Could we put a time on it, Skylar, that we would re-examine it for its use after a year's time, or?
You can set time limits like that.
Right. We've done that on things before.
Yeah. So the way I was thinking of to deal with the parties would be renting for the purposes of parties or special events not related to typical residential stays shall be prohibited.
That's good. That's a good line.
That's a good one. Yep. Yeah. Like I said, I think the Lees are very honorable here in what they're trying to do. Mm-hmm. And I want to honor Tracy's concerns about the precedent we set. And I think if we had some kind of condition like that, it becomes more of a deterrent for us to have a precedent that sets this as a standard for any B&B anywhere in the township. And I think that's a future concern, and I think we want to help us with. And if that makes sense, Skylar, I like your words in that term.
Okay.
So I would just say two things from my own experience. If people want to cheat, they're going to cheat. there's not a lot you can do about it. And the
Well,
second,
and that, yeah.
my second thought is I like to rely on the integrity of the applicants to do what they say they're going to do.
I agree.
Yeah.
And they're in a self-employed business. I don't think they can
Yeah.
afford to make mistakes.
I don't think we have a problem here as much as the precedent that Tracy's warning us of.
And does this run with the property, or does it run to the property owner? So if they sell this to someone, this conditional use goes to the next owner, correct? It runs with the land, right, Skylar?
Yeah, unless there's a time limit on this.
Right.
Or the condition could be put in the case of the current owners.
Yep, that's fine.
Do that.
I think we add that too to it, George, if that makes sense to your motion.
I agree, Jim. Yes. So we'll.
So that was a discussion after your motion was made and seconded, and your motion was to approve it, and the discussion was to use Skylar's words in terms of limitations and limit it to the current owners would be the stipulation. Does that cover your stipulation, Steve?
So I tell you what, we're gonna make this really easy because Jessica will be very upset with me if I don't make this this very clear for the minutes. So
Okay.
So here's what I propose. I'll read off all of these conditions, and
Yes, sir.
and Mr. Tenek, if you're agreeable, just say motion to amend. Okay, and then he'll get a second on that. So let me. All right. So I currently have 3 conditions. They are as follows: rentals for the purpose of parties or special events not related to typical residential stays shall be prohibited. 2, there shall be a minimum of 3-day rental. 3, this conditional use shall be revoked upon transfer of ownership.
I concur with those.
All right, so
Motion as stated.
motion to amend is what we need.
Motion to amend.
All right, need a second for that.
Second.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, why don't we go ahead and take a vote on that, Mr. Secretary?
Mr. Lugers,
No.
Mr. Heidel,
No.
Mr. Tenite,
Yes.
Mr. Eichmann,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz, yes.
Okay, it's passed with those amendments there, and my guess for where we're at, Skylar, is we don't have a resolution that can be approved tonight with those details yet, or do we?
Actually, I was typing those conditions into the resolution, so it is ready to go.
Boy, you are good.
You are good.
So I tell you what I'm going to do. Let me move my screens around here. So I will. Hang on one second. I'll do a screen share. So the main view will be the resolution itself.
Okay.
And give me 1 second. All right, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So we have resolution number SYCB 200016, a resolution approving a request for a conditional use permit. And this, do you want me to read the whole thing or just title, and then we can go to conditions?
I think the conditions would be appropriate.
Okay. Now therefore be it resolved by the Sycamore Township Board of Zoning Appeals, Section 1, that the application of Nelson and Lauren Lee, applicant for the property located at 6380 Euclid, that's Euclid Avenue, right?
Euclid Road, I can't recall.
It's road.
It's road?
Yep.
Okay.
It's road.
All right, sorry about that. Euclid Road, Sycamore Township, Hamilton County, Ohio is hereby approved. Section 2, that the approval of the application granted in this resolution is subject to the following. 1, rentals for the purposes of parties or special events not related to typical residential stays shall be prohibited. 2, there shall be a minimum of 3-day rentals. All right.
Okay.
And 3, this conditional use shall be revoked upon transfer of ownership. Section 3 is standard. No zoning certificate shall be issued by the administrator until they meet all of our conditions. So this is all. The rest of it's standard language.
Okay, and you want to establish the voter record, and then we'll authorize signature.
So you've already made a motion to authorize electronic signature, so I can take care of that. What we need is a vote on the resolution.
Okay, so Steve, do you want to go ahead and call roll on the voter resolution?
Yes. Mr. Lugers,
No.
Mr. Heidel,
No.
Mr. Tenick,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz, yes. And Jim.
Yes.
Technology.
Yeah.
There we go. And that's a no as well, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Yeah. We'll go ahead and type in. I'll just go ahead and save this. We'll go ahead and do the signatures. I believe there's a referendum period on this for 30 days, and then it goes into effect.
Okay.
All right. And so I'm actually going to, let me do a stop share here. Okay. I'm going to go off screen for now and get Kevin set up for our next case.
Okay.
Okay, so in terms of the leads, they have the authorization to do this. So very good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So our next new case is and Rob, I'm not sure. Do we have our next case online with us? Oh, I didn't flip to my page there.
Look at that. It's in there. Well, that's not. This is the one we're on right now. So we're in here.
So close out of this. This is
Okay. We'll be patient.
That's what I thought.
That's right.
That's what I thought. Okay.
we're good. So let's go ahead and do that.
Over here.
Yep, right there. So
I gotta do this to move it though, right?
yeah, so you'll
Okay.
use this to move it,
Okay.
and
Rob, just let me know when Mr. Malley's in and when you guys are ready, because I have to swear him in as well as explain the circumstances. Okay. Okay. Kevin, would you kind of unshare so we can get Mr. Malley on? Thank you.
Yeah, Jessica's trying to reach out right now.
Okay,
Yeah, we're going to try to call one more time.
we'll be patient.
Jessica said she can't get a hold of him.
Was he on earlier?
I believe so. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, I'm comfortable sitting at home. I can wait.
Could you turn on the football game or something we could watch?
It's 23-17, Kansas City.
About 2
I'm
minutes
watching it.
ago. In the interim, I promise I did not have this on except for when we were just doing this. So I will turn it off.
It's like in the car. My boss is a huge Kansas City fan, so I have to make sure she's going to be in a good mood tomorrow. So.
Oh gosh. I had to go through that. Oh my gosh, that's painful.
Hey guys, sorry I'm here.
You're 13, you really.
My boss is a huge Kansas City fan, so I have to. Oh, you're gonna hear me. I don't want to hear that.
Okay. Let the record show I'm off the phone.
Yeah, phone check.
Hey guys, sorry, I'm here.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Hear me. I don't want to hear that.
Let the record show I'm off the phone.
What is this?
You have something else on there, Mr. Maley, that you can turn off?
If you have Vimeo running, you need to turn that off.
Can you guys see me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still something else in the background that we can't.
It's like a loop.
If you have Vimeo running, you need to turn that off. So, yeah, that'll work. So just leave yourself muted until it's time to talk. That'll be fine.
Okay, so Mr. Maley, this is a public hearing, and being sworn in prior to giving testimony is required. We've sworn the other folks in who have been in the meeting, but I'll ask you to, at this point, raise your right hand. And do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Your answer is I do. I think I saw his mouth move, so that's good. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. And generally what we try to do, and you haven't appeared before our Board of Zoning Appeals before, try to give you a little bit of an idea of what we do when we're hearing for a variance. And because your case is a variance, we've already kind of covered this once with the conditional use, but I wanted to let you know how we make our decision so you understand the process we're going to have tonight. And a variance is an official permit to do something that's normally forbidden by our regulations or by building in a way or for a purpose that's forbidden by our zoning laws. No variance that we have shall be granted that is greater than the minimum necessary to relieve the hardship or practical difficulty that's demonstrated by you, the applicant. But our Board of Zoning Appeals does have the responsibility to make sure following standards are met. and this is how we make our judgments. These standards are a few. One of them is, it is a unique physical condition. Number two, it's not one that's self-created. Number three, it's not one that would deny you substantial rights. Number four, it's not merely a special privilege. Number five, it must be in harmony with the township resolution. Number six, it would not result in the use or development on the subject property that is materially different or detrimental to the township. And lastly, the decision we make is irrelevant to the fact of whether or not construction has started or completed on a violation that did not request to receive a proper building permit. And I don't believe that's the case tonight. And what we're doing when we go through one of our hearings is that we generally will have Mr. Miller or Mr. Clark present the variance to us, the case, the applicant, the location, and the request, and explain it to us. And then just the board members will be able to ask them, the staff, for clarification. And then we'll discuss the issues amongst those of us on the board. And then at some point, I will then ask the applicant to add anything. And this is your opportunity to tell us anything you have in mind that you want to discuss and why you want us to approve your variance request. And then after you're completed with everything you have to say, I'll ask if there's any attending public that would like to comment on the variance proposal. And then once that's done by whoever is present or who maybe has sent us a note, we'll then close the public comment and discuss the issues before us. And then we'll entertain a motion from one of the board members to approve or deny the variance request. So that's kind of our process, so that you're comfortable with that. We'll get to the point where you're the applicant and you can speak, and we'll certainly let you know when that comes about. So the case here that we're going to talk about tonight is case number SYCB2 00015. That's for Anthony Maley on 4676 Largo Drive. This is, as I mentioned, for a variance. So Kevin, Kevin Clark gonna do that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you very much.
All righty, case SYCB 200015, address at 4676 Largo Drive. Request is for a variance. Applicant is Anthony Maley. Parcel PIN is 600-0210-0813-00. The current zoning there is C residential. Zoning compliance issues are table 4-6, lot width, yard requirements in residential district. Requirements 30 feet rear yard setback. The request is the applicant requests a variance to table 4-6 of the zoning resolution to construct a deck in the defined front yard of a corner lot. Oops, sorry, I went too far. Just always like to show the parcel of the property that's in question here.
Can anybody see the presentation?
Not yet.
No.
Okay, pause. Sorry, we'll get that straightened out. Kevin, you gotta do a screen share.
Okay. Screen share. I want to go to one, which one? Number 2? Can everybody see it?
Yeah. Now we, Kevin,
got it? Okay, sorry about that. Okay, I like to always show the parcel of the property that's in question. Too far. Give you an aerial view of the same property. To give a little bit more understanding what the property, what the property looks like from up above. A little shot of the view of the front of the house. And then this is the rear part of the house where he would like to construct this deck. The screened-in porch is going to stay. He's just going to come off of that and kind of come this way with it and go across his driveway and just basically not all the way to the edge of the house, but right about in here where he's going to construct that deck to.
Can't see the where is the here. Or your pointer? You have the pointer?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'll go back.
Okay.
Let me see.
Kind of over the top of the garage door is what you're saying?
Yeah, give me my laser pointer. Can you see it now, George? You got it? Okay, there. I'm sorry. I didn't have my laser pointer on. Yeah, he's going to come off basically right here. Going to come across and then He's going to cut it short of the corner, coming right about here, right past the garage door.
We've got a site plan to show you coming up.
Yeah, I got a site plan. I'll show you that. And see, it gives you a view of the side of the house from the street there to show you. He's going to come off basically right in this area here, and then kind of bring it, and then go straight back to here. This is just a little sketch that he gave us of his deck and what it's kind of look like with his, artwork, basically on the back of the home. And then he gave us this here to give us basically the dimensions of the deck and where it's going to be, and how the distance to the property lines, where he's going to be. He's only going to be 12.3 from this corner, 13.4 from this corner to the property line, and then he's got 36.2 from that, from basically to the rear of the property, and then 10.2 to the other property line. This I wanted to show you is basically the same exact house with the same exact screen and porch, as you can see, just one street over on the corner lot. We have no, basically nothing on our books that says when this deck was built or anything. They've never had a BZA case or anything, but this is basically, except for as far as they went with it, he doesn't want to go that far, but basically showing you exactly what he wants to do. Give you a shot from the side. This is what he's looking to do right here. So I just wanted to show you guys that, since it's just a street over from where he lives, basically on the same street, but on another corner lot. Just giving you a really good idea.
Yeah, and Kevin, you did say it, but just to clarify, this is a similar design, but it actually extends past the front face of the house.
It does.
Or the side face of the house.
As you can see right here,
our applicant is going to be behind that face.
Exactly. He's going to cut it short. Basically, the applicant is requesting a variance to allow a deck of 315 square feet, and it's going to be 4.5 feet tall in the shortest area to 8 feet tall in the tallest area in the defined front yard. I now open it up to questions for me and Skylar. Otherwise, if you don't, the applicant is here to answer questions as well.
Kevin, if you could you go back to the drawing of his drawing that he gave us?
His drawing, yes, I will. Right here.
Yeah, so what is the 8 feet versus 4 feet I'm having trouble with?
8 feet will be here at the garage. The 4 feet will be right in this area here. Because let me go back to another shot. See how his yard goes up?
Yes.
See, in this area here would be the 8 foot, and then up in here would be the 4 foot.
Okay.
So Kevin, go to if you don't mind, go to the neighboring property picture.
Okay.
Yeah. So so obviously this house is is opposite. It's mirrored. But what we're talking about is that 8 foot clearance on the far left side of this picture. It should be far right for the applicant.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. That helps a lot. Thank you.
Yep.
Kevin, I have a question. And
sure.
Why the variance? Is it because it's too close to a lot line?
Go ahead and go to that site plan, Kevin.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Skylar.
That's right. So this property is what we consider a legal non-conforming use. So while the proposed deck is behind the existing side face, with this being a corner lot, there's 2 front yards. Okay, so you've got the primary front yard. There you go. And then Dartmoor is the second front. The house and the whole house, including this new deck, would actually be encroaching in the front yard setback. So this new deck, while being behind the existing face of the house, would further that would further that non-conforming status. So we can't approve this by right, basically because the house is already grandfathered as is. So, the board may deem this a reasonable request tonight. I certainly wouldn't have any objections to that. But understand that we're limited in what we can do based on code. That front yard on Dartmoor, does not meet current standards. So us allowing a deck to go in that front yard, would be in excess of our authority.
So to allow a deck there, given that property I'm looking at, he would have to extend it back from the jut out in the back of his house to give him a sizable deck of same proportion.
So actually, what's the front yard setback in this area is 30 feet, right,
30
Kevin?
feet. 30 feet.
So you'd have to go 30 feet. What's the total width of this property, roughly?
I don't know.
Go back to your cages.
Probably about 50.
I was gonna say 60. Okay, it doesn't show it on there.
Doesn't show it on here. Yeah.
Okay. At any rate, you're talking about going halfway into this lot to hit code. That's this is a situation where the code as written does not fit a pre-existing property. It is a legal non-conforming use. It's grandfathered, if you will. While if we treat this as a traditional property, we ignore Dartmoor. Then he has one front yard, two side yards, and then that rear yard. This would be, if he was the one house over on the right, he'd be able to do this by right. Because it's a corner lot, based on the current zoning resolution, he doesn't meet those setbacks.
Okay.
Just
This is
because of
a
this front yard.
textbook. This is a textbook property to discuss, hardship. This is not a, the setbacks were applied to this property after it was created, or after the house was built. So there is a physical hardship here as well as essentially a codified one.
Okay. Any other questions for the staff?
No.
Okay. In that case, I'll ask the applicant at this point, if you can get us back to full camera. I'll ask the applicant if they would like to add anything at this point. Mr. Maley, can we take his mute off?
Yep.
Okay.
There we
And
go.
there's nothing I'd like to add.
The applicant at this point, if you can get us back to full camera. I'll ask the applicant if they would like to add anything at this point.
No, there's nothing I'd like to
Mr.
add.
Maley, can we take his mute off?
Okay.
I think there's somebody recording something in the background that keeps repeating all of our comments. So.
I think the Vimeo live stream's running. Yeah. There's always a slight delay with the live stream. So, yeah.
I think there's somebody recording something.
That's fine, Mr. Malley. If you don't have any additional comments, we appreciate you being here and stay on the conversation, but go ahead and just mute. We don't have that reverb. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Maley didn't have any additional comments. Is there anybody from the attending public that would like to comment? Rob? Okay. Okay, so at this point, then I'll be glad to close the public comment. and we'll discuss the issues here before us. Anybody from our board members have any comments?
I look at this and say it's a corner lot, and we changed the setbacks exactly what Skylar had said before, and I'm inclined to approve it as submitted.
Any other comments?
For losers for once tonight.
Kevin, I appreciate you taking a photo of that other property that kind of gives us a good picture of what we're looking at. And that really helped my decision. I agree with Ted. I think it's a good idea.
No problem.
Yeah, it's nice when we have a real world example to reference. So, you know, it's also frustrating when we find something like that and there's no case history. There, you know, there's no permits on that.
Very old deck.
There's no variance. So, yeah, like, oh, they got that one by us.
Yeah. I remembered that deck from all my years of plowing snow in that neighborhood. So
okay, there you go.
I knew basically what he was looking at when I saw his plans, and I was like, I know exactly where a house is that could show exactly what he wants.
Good work.
Just one street over.
That's one great thing that Kevin brings to the department is institutional knowledge.
There you go. Well, good. Then if there's no other comments from us, do I hear a motion of some kind?
I'll make a motion. I motion on case SYCB 20015 that we approve it as submitted.
I second.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, Mr. Secretary?
Mr. Lugers?
Yes.
Mr. Eichmann?
Yes.
Mr. Heidel?
Yes.
Mr. Tenike?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz? Yes.
Very good. It passed unanimously, and my guess is that, Skylar, you have a resolution for us?
As it so happens, Jessica Daves happened to prepare a variety of scenarios for us on this. So I've pulled up the one appropriate to the motion. So can you guys see the resolution?
Yes, we have.
Okay, all right, sorry, I didn't see my screen highlighted. At any rate, I have resolution number SYCB 200015, a resolution approving a request for a variance. And as you can see, now therefore be it resolved by the Sycamore Township Board of Zoning Appeals, Section 1, that the application of Anthony Malley, applicant for the property located at 4675 Largo Drive, Sycamore Township, Hamilton County, Ohio, is hereby approved. Section 2, no zoning certificate shall be issued by the zoning administrator until all the typical conditions are met, but there are no additional conditions set by the board tonight. So this will go again. There's a 30-day referendum period that will go into effect once this is approved. If I may request a motion to approve and roll call for this resolution.
I
So-
move to approve.
And seconded. So, Mr. Secretary, take the vote.
Mr. Lugers?
Yes.
Mr. Heidel?
Yes.
Mr. Tenike?
Yes.
Mr. Eichmann?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Schultz? Yes.
Okay, and we've already passed the resolution for signatures.
Yes, sir. This will be signed digitally once Jessica properly formats it. But you can see for the record,
Very good.
the pertinent language. So thank you guys very much.
Very good. So, Mr. Malley, everything's been accepted. So you'll have his ability to go ahead and get his.
Yes, sir.
Resolution,
We'll start working with the applicant to get proper permits. So you're still required to pull the township zoning permit, and you'll need to get a building permit from Hamilton County. So that's very important, especially with an elevated deck like this. We'll work with you and make sure you don't miss any steps. So thank you very much, sir.
Okay, very good. And that concludes our new business for the night. And the date of our next meeting is Monday, November 16th, 2020 at 6:30. Any communications or miscellaneous business? Okay, if not
tonight.
If not, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
I second. Okay, Mr. Secretary, vote.
Mr. Lugers,
Yes.
Mr. Heidel,
Yes.
Mr. Tenick,
Yes.
Mr. Eichmann,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz, yes.
Very good. This meeting is adjourned at 8:11 p.m.
Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful night.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Skylar.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Everyone.
Bye.